god morgon i kör. God morgon, kom du hem sent i natt. God morgon, förlåt att vi stör. Innan vi går ut i dagens jobb och spring och skubb, sjunger vi en liten sång i våran frukostklubb. God morgon, eten ska bära fram en hälsning. God morgon till dig.
Ja, god morgon. Ja, så har det hänt igen då att min huvudkanal är satt i karantän efter en varning som gör att jag inte kan lägga upp någonting på 2 veckor. Och jag delar alltså saker som redan finns på YouTube. Videon hette Kalergiplanen och folkutbyte. Och det finns massor med video om Kalergiplanen. Och jag hade lagt till en snutt där med Barbara Specter också som säger att vi judar kommer att bli illa omtyckta för att vi står bakom massinvasionen av afrikaner och mellanösternfolk in till Europa. Och det finns också många videor med henne som säger just det här. Men att andra får göra det inte jag får göra, det känns som att de trakasserar mig helt enkelt och förföljer mig. Jag vet inte hur jag annars ska kunna uttrycka det, och jag har ju överklagat men det hjälper inte, det går inte att prata med dem. De är fascister, de har bestämt sig att jag ska märkas och då blir det så. Så nu kör jag ju på min reservkanal här i 2 veckor och förväntar mig inte någon större publik. Det står visserligen att det är nu är det 2 inne och tittar. Men jag ska fortsätta med det jag la upp igår på min huvudkanal. Och det är om vädermanipulation. Och jag kör igång den videon direkt här.
These are all the patents for weather modification that are playing on your screen. These are just some, really, of the weather modification things that are out there. A lot of them you'll see have to do with hurricane control and but it's more than hurricanes. They can do this obviously with snow, because when you do it and it's 20 degrees out, it's 10 degrees out, you're going to get freezing rain in a lot of places, which is going to cause power outages. Freezing rain in some ways is more dangerous than getting an actual foot of snow, especially if you get snow and then freezing rain on top of it. A lot of the power lines will go down. But these are all government documents, right? You can look them up yourself. So you can just take one of those numbers and look it up. This goes back how far? Well, we're looking at the 1918. Oh, 1891 was even in the beginning, 1905. It just keeps going and going and going until, of course, we get to 2025 when they're actually going to really unleash it. Now, they've been testing it. They've done things like Katrina that they've gotten away with in the past. But really, if you start looking at some of the stuff, it's really clear to see. When we hear about the aurora borealis being, oh, it's radio frequencies from HAARP are causing this in the sky. Well, it's amazing that this appears over and over and over again now all around the world ever since they put more NextRad towers and more 5G towers up. That all of a sudden people are seeing it in Florida. Next thing you're seeing it, oh my God, South America. And everyone just goes, whoa, the northern lights are coming tonight. And then they give you some bull crap on the news. Oh, well, it's got something to do with the magnetic field and the coronal mass ejection. They could eject it right up their ass for all I care. Excuse my French, because I've had enough of these psychopaths. That's where they can inject it, because it's nothing but their made up science. Remember, these people talk about how they are the science. They own the science, right?
We partnered with Google, for example. If you Google climate change, you will, at the top of your search, you will get all kinds of UN resources. we started this partnership when we were shocked to see that when we Googled climate change, we were getting incredibly distorted information right at the top. So we're becoming much more proactive. We own the science, and we think that the world, should know it. We own the science, and we think that the world, should know it.
Right, they own the science.
Ja, de äger vetenskapen, den så kallade vetenskapen. Och de har ju då fått Google att ta bort allting som har med sanning att göra och lägga det långt, långt ner. Utan den officiella versionen kommer högst upp när man söker på climate change. Och inte några kritiska videos överhuvudtaget.
You know what else they own? They own the weather, because they've convinced people that their weather towers can predict the weather when they're giving you a blueprint of the weather and where it's going to go. Because if people noticed all these towers and things up, they'd say, what is the purpose of these things? What are these things doing here? And they say, oh, well, they're up all over the place because this is how we tell you in advance what kind of weather you're going to get. Oh, right. I thought you couldn't predict the weather. I thought you couldn't control the weather. Well, by showing you in advance that you're going to have a storm in 5 days, these suckers believe, oh, good. They're letting us know they're such a help to all of us. We could run to Home Depot and get salt and get more shovels and be prepared for it, right? Instead of going, how do they know where the weather's going and how it's going to turn? In some of these cases, which are hilarious, right? I mean, think about some of the stories I've covered in the past, right? Even the beginning of this year, or last year, March 2025, unusually powerful March storm threatens to create a blizzard, a tornado, and fires as it crosses the U.S. And it took this bizarre pattern as well. And none of these people blinked. Huh? A blizzard with tornadoes and fire? Isn't that an oxymoron? If there's going to be a blizzard, it's going to be cold. Oh, but there's going to be fire tornadoes inside of the blizzard. What? It's like a D-level movie, but they know these people are so deep under mind control that they'll never snap out of it. Now, here's some clips again that I've showed in the past where these people admit to controlling the weather, what they do at HAARP, all just huge coincidences. They cause conspiracy theorists, as you see under my videos. They're like New World Order. They'll tag it. New World Order is a conspiracy theory, right? Oh, but you got Carney talking about a New World Order being formed, Trump talking about a New World Order, George Bush talking about a New World Order, but it's a conspiracy theory, right? They come out in the open and they go, the old order is dead. The New World Order is beginning. And then when we talk about the New World Order, they put Wikipedia under it that pretty much says, oh, these people are conspiracy nuts. Oh, right, because we're actually pointing out these people saying these things. It's incredible. Well, here are some of these people, including former presidents, talking about controlling the weather.
We shall propose further cooperative efforts between all the nations in weather prediction and eventually in weather control.
It lays the predicate foundation for the development of a weather satellite that will permit man to determine the world's cloud layer and ultimately to control the weather, and he who controls the weather will control the world.
This is the loudest sound you could possibly conceive, and as it turns out, the cleanest. That cloud up there, which was generated by the engine, is just a mixture of hydrogen and oxygen. It's water vapor. And in about an hour's time, someone in Mississippi is going to get wet washing. It will actually rain. I told you. It's raining. NASA's playing God. It's making its own weather.
Project Cirrus is the first official attempt to modify a hurricane. It was run by General Electric with the support of the U.S. military. The official theory was that by changing the temperature outside the eye wall of a hurricane, which they did by seeding the clouds with various compounds such as silver iodide, a decrease in strong winds will result. On October 13th, 1947, Project Cirrus targeted a hurricane heading out to sea. Approximately 180 pounds of dry ice was dropped into the clouds. The crew then reported a pronounced modification of the cloud deck. and the hurricane abruptly changed direction and made landfall near Savannah, Georgia. The public blamed the government. Irving Langmuir, who pioneered General Electric's atmospheric research department and admitted that the project was about learning how to weaponize the weather, also claimed the reversal of the hurricane had been caused by Project Cirrus. But the government denied it for 12 years.
Another example is the array of technologies, often referred to collectively as geoengineering, that potentially could help reverse the warming effects of global climate change. One that has gained my personal attention is stratospheric aerosol injection, or SAI, a method of seeding the stratosphere with particles that can help reflect the sun's heat in much the same way that volcanic eruptions do. An SAI program could limit global temperature increases, reducing some risks associated with higher temperatures and providing the world economy additional time to transition from fossil fuels. This process is also relatively inexpensive. The National Research Council estimates that a fully deployed SAI program would cost about $10 billion yearly. As promising as it may be, moving forward on SAI would also raise a number of challenges for our government and for the international community. On the technical side, greenhouse gas emission reductions would still have to accompany SAI to address other climate change effects, such as ocean acidification, because SAI alone would not remove greenhouse gases from the atmosphere. On the geopolitical side, the technology's potential to alter weather patterns and benefit certain regions of the world at the expense of other regions could trigger sharp opposition by some nations. Others might seize on SAI's benefits and back away from their commitment to carbon dioxide reductions. On the geopolitical side, the technology's potential to alter weather patterns and benefit certain regions of the world at the expense of other regions could trigger sharp opposition by some nations. On the geopolitical side, the technology's potential to alter weather patterns and benefit certain regions of the world at the expense of other regions could trigger sharp opposition by some nations.
So what we have...
Ja, de kan alltså skapa torka på ett område och översvämningar på ett annat område, och de kan till och med utlösa jordbävningar och tornados och även tsunamis med de här vädervapnen. Så att det är farliga grejer som de håller på med.
Here, according to the Senate and Congress and other people, are folks that will look you straight in the face and say, well, the idea of weather control, creation of earthquakes electronically and all of that's absolutely ridiculous, Mr. Fletcher, or anyone else that might ask it. However, we find out that our nation 20 years ago actually went into an entire convention that said, now that we can do it, we promise that we won't use it against other countries. Well, unfortunately, that promise does not include using it against ourselves here in the United States. So, again, when Senator Cole had asked me what it was that I meant, inferring that the New World Order persons will utilize it as a weapon against us, that was what I meant. A friend of mine said, there's patents on that equipment. And as you can see here, he's absolutely right. These are the paperwork of the actual patents on the electronic means by which waves or rays, if you will, can be utilized to block, stop, move, alter, change the weather. It includes creating storms, expanding them, and even generating ELF, low-frequency vibrations that actually can move Earth in the ground itself and possibly generate the possibility of earthquakes. But the very equipment that's being used presently, covertly, secretly, in a multitude of outrageous experiments and programs right now.
When you hear the name Bill Gates, you probably think Microsoft founder, but now the billionaire may be known as the hurricane tamer. Gates is listed as one of 13 inventors on a patent filed for hurricane prevention methods. Hurricanes gain strength from condensation driven by warm surface water, which leads to greater wind speeds. Gates and his team plan to use a fleet of ships to cool warm surface water by mixing it with colder water from greater depths. They hope this will sap energy from growing storms, leading to weaker, less devastating hurricanes. The patent, which isn't expected to be approved for another 18 months, was submitted by Seareed LLC, a sub-entity of an Intellectual Ventures and an invention acquisition and development firm.
First time I visited HARP, I didn't even know what it was. I went to HARP as part of a physics club, the Society of Physics Students. I was a student here at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, and HARP at the time held an annual open house event where the public could tour the facility and talk to the scientists.
HARP is a facility to study the ionosphere, region 60 miles out into space. And that's a region where there's not much density. The air is very thin, mostly plasma, which means electrons and ions.
When I saw this facility and saw how unique and interesting it was, is when I decided to do my PhD thesis research using the HARP facility itself. HARP stands for the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program.
The federal government spent about $300 million. It's the most exquisite of its kind in the world. It's currently owned and operated by the Air Force Research Lab. And they have other priorities. They've done some tests over the years. Now they want to go do other things. So it's become a bit of an orphan, sitting down there in Kokona. The U.S. has the lead in the world in this area. It would be a shame to give that up. The other facilities aren't nearly as flexible or as powerful. And HARP can do science that the other two can't. There's a chart that compares all the heaters, including air receiver. You can see that it's quite a bit more powerful and more flexible.
It's an instrument that allows us to make small changes to the ionosphere, and then we can measure the response of the ionosphere and the upper atmosphere to the changes that HARP is making. Scientists have categorized the various layers of the atmosphere. Most of the weather that we experience occurs in the troposphere. When we fly in commercial aircraft, we're generally flying at the top of the troposphere. Above that is the stratosphere, and above that is the mesosphere, and above that is the thermosphere. And the ionosphere is basically part of the thermosphere, which extends from about 80 to 100 kilometers altitude all the way up to about 1,000 kilometers altitude. And so the ionosphere is generally what we refer to as the partially ionized portion of the thermosphere. It's too high for weather balloons, and it's too low for many satellites. And sure, we can launch rockets through the ionosphere too, as we do at Poker Flat, but those are very fast but expensive experiments. The reason why we care about the ionosphere, particularly for radio communication, is that radio waves, when traveling through free space, behave differently when they travel through a region of charged particles or plasma. The ionosphere is basically a partially ionized plasma, and so one of the things that can happen to radio waves that travel through a plasma is that they can be bent, their polarization can change, they can be absorbed. And since so much of our lives is really dependent on radio communication, either communicating to satellites or for navigation with GPS, which is also communicating with satellites essentially, or over-the-horizon communication or over-the-horizon radar, it's really important for us to understand how radio waves are affected by the ionosphere, and in some cases how radio waves affect the ionosphere in the case of HARP or other powerful radio transmitters.
A lot of us realize how important it is, how powerful, how significant the facility is. So we're trying to figure out ways to keep it alive as an active scientific tool.
Why would it be beneficial? I can't speak for the applications, but it's a mystery to solve. We can think of the ionosphere as a natural plasma laboratory, the conditions of which are difficult to replicate in an actual physical laboratory. And so this is just another way of learning about the world around us. Why would it be beneficial? I can't speak for the applications, but it's a mystery to solve.
So you can even hear the guy at the end. He doesn't even know. He's like, I was up at HARP for all this time. Honestly, nobody knows what they actually do. Oh, right, this government operation up there that shoots frequencies into the sky, very high frequency waves that reflect off the firmament. Oh, yeah, no, we don't know what they do. So what are you doing there? What were you doing the whole time? Oh, I was just learning what? You learn nothing because you don't know what they're doing, or because you're not going to tell people, well, we're controlling the weather because there might be a mutiny on your hand, right? I mean, it's an utter joke. So obviously, I'm not affected by any of this stuff personally that's going on, but I'm keeping an eye on it. I pray for everybody out there who is affected. Obviously, I don't want anyone out there to panic because it's laughable that a foot of snow is now the end of the world. I mean, I remember growing up, you'd get a foot of snow once in a while. It really wasn't that big of a deal. In fact, when the power went out for 2 days, as long as you had a fireplace or something that could stay warm, it was kind of fun not to have electricity. You play some board games with your parents, or play cards, or just do something with candlelight, right? That's another thing they're warning about. Don't use candles. Don't use candles. It provides heat and light. They're like, don't use candles. Whatever you do. Why, my house can explode if I put some candles on? I mean, this is how paranoid they've made people. Where they're like, well, the news said not to use candles. All right, because you can generate warmth from the candles, and you can see. Right? What are you telling people back in the 1800s? Don't use candles. Use a flashlight. Well, we don't even know what a flashlight is. Well, if you use a candle, your house might burn to the ground because somebody might knock it over. And these people are just like, right, I'm not going to use a candle because I'm so paranoid. I'm afraid to take a dump. I'm afraid to take a leak. I'm afraid to go to my mailbox because I might...
Ja, så de leker med krafter som de inte vet vad som kommer att hända. Alltså de har inte fullständig kontroll över vad de håller på med. Och det kan ju ställa till med oerhörda katastrofer.
Get a common cough and have to wear a mask and go to the hospital with COVID. It's really, really bad out there. So I doubt that this is as bad as they claim, because we all know it's never as bad as they claim. The freezing rain and the ice is obviously the threat to causing power outages and, driving in it and things like that, or older people slipping and falling on the ice. But really, it's on the people who don't have these things in their home. And you might say, well, they don't have the money to do, they don't have the money to put in a fire. Every home should have a fireplace. It should be like 101 requirement. They used to, in the old days, every house had a fireplace because it was, you can have a fireplace to stay warm. You don't have to rely on, the government and the energy prices. And besides, what if the power goes out? What if something goes wrong? You need to have heat in the wintertime to stay warm, or you could die of hypothermia, right? So people who don't have it, you should be thinking twice about it. Wood-burning stove. But again, they don't want you to have these things because they want you fully dependent on them. That's what Big Brother is. Be fully dependent on us. Don't be independent. Don't think independently. And don't try to save your own family or yourself from these storms. Just, wrap yourself in a blanket and have the shakes for a couple of days and hope that we turn the power back on, because we're the ones flipping the switch. Because we already told you could expect power outages from a few inches of snow in the south, and then they claim it's going to be 18 inches up in the north. But there's states that get 18 inches all the time. Montana gets big amounts of snow. Wyoming, they're pretty much covered in snow. Vermont, these are places that are always covered in snow. You don't hear them running around, oh my gosh, there's going to be a foot of snow this week. It's like commonplace. Oh, okay, well, I'll make sure my fridge is stocked. No big deal. I could stay home. I got a fireplace in case the power goes out. But around the rest of America, people are crapping their pants, don't know what to actually do because the media is making them do. The media is going, oh boy, you're in big trouble, right? Yeah, we're in big trouble because of man-made weather modification. All the chemtrails leading up to the big blizzard, right? You could obviously see, as I showed you, the graph of the ionosphere being heated up because everything was getting turned on, which is what all those streaks were that you saw over North America, which just conveniently is following the same, exactly where this storm is going. And the Aurora Borealis, right? Happen to have the northern lights days in advance. And of course, we know the northern lights are when HAARP is turned on, and it causes fake fake Aurora Borealis. Sometimes it's hard to say when you're speaking this fast, but this is the world we live in, folks. The government trying to murder you and ruin your life with weather, because remember, the climate laws are going to be just like COVID. Instead of quarantine, stay home because you're the carbon emission we're trying to prevent. Ration your electricity. Don't leave the house unless we tell you. You got a curfew when you can go out. That's the world they're trying to build. And they're going to do a lot of it through weather modification in the future. And that includes masks. Because they're going to say, look, you emit carbon when you leave your house. You're going to have to wear a mask just to go out for 1 hour a week, right? That's what these psychopaths are trying to do. So you can guarantee there will be power outages because they'll flip the switch. I pray for people out there to stay safe and obviously stay warm. I thank you again for listening. God bless all of you and your families as always.
Ja, nu ska jag läsa några saker också. Jag ska börja med en artikel från Fria Tider. Vill inte svara på hur de köper och kontrollerar politikerna. Under ett evenemang arrangerat av Israeli American Council ställdes direkta frågor till de israelisk-amerikanska miljardärerna Miriam Adelson och Haim Saban om hur de använder sina ekonomiska resurser för att köpa politiker. Svaren blev undvikande. Miriam Adelson och Haim Saban är toppdonatorer på sin respektive sida av politiken. Adelson donerar miljardbelopp till republikanska politiker och Saban fokuserar på de demokratiska. Men de har båda samma krav på motprestation. Ett villkorslöst stöd till Israel. När Miriam Adelson under evenemanget hos Israeli American Council tillfrågades om hur hon och hennes framlidne make Sheldon Adelson byggt upp nära relationer till politiker på både delstats- och federal nivå, valde hon att inte svara. Kan jag få slippa svara? Jag vill vara sanningsenlig och det finns så många saker som jag inte vill prata om, svarade Miriam Adelson. Frågeställaren betonade att han inte efterfrågade detaljer, men Adelson stod fast vid sitt beslut att avstå. Haim Saban, som länge varit toppfinansiär av det demokratiska partiet, gav ett något mer utförligt svar men underströk att allt sker inom ramen för gällande lagstiftning. Jag vill vara försiktig med hur jag säger det här. Det är ett system som vi inte har skapat. Det är ett system som finns på plats. Det är ett lagligt system och vi spelar bara inom systemet. Det som ger mer har mer tillgång och det som ger mindre har mindre tillgång. Det är enkel matematik, säger Saban. Saban har tidigare förklarat vad syftet med hans donationer är. Jag är en enfrågeperson och min fråga är Israel. Hans bidrag har i huvudsak gått till demokratiska kandidater. Adelson har i sin tur varit en av de största givarna till republikanska kandidater, särskilt Donald Trump. Trump har själv vid flera tillfällen medgett att beslut under hans första presidentperiod fattades på beställning från Adelson-familjen som donerat hundratals miljoner dollar till hans kampanjer. Han har bland annat pekat på flytten av USAs ambassad i Israel till Jerusalem och erkännandet av Israels annektering av Golanhöjderna som åtgärder som låg dem varmt om hjärtat. I oktober hyllade Trump sin välgörarinna i det israeliska parlamentet Knesset. Han berättade bland annat att Miriam Adelson vägrar svara på om hon gillar USA eller Israel mest. Jag ställer till det för henne nu, men jag frågade henne faktiskt en gång: vad älskar du mest, USA eller Israel? Hon vägrade svara. Det kan betyda Israel, sa en leende Trump, känd för slagordet America First. USAs system för kampanjfinansiering och lobbying tillåter omfattande privata donationer och politiskt påverkansarbete. Kritiker menar att detta i praktiken ger miljardärer kontroll över politiska beslut. Något som anses ha blivit särskilt tydligt under Donald Trump, som inte hymlar med att han jobbar för sina främsta finansiärer. Ja, det är pengar som styr politiken, framförallt i USA, men det är ju likadant i resten av världen. Nu ska jag läsa någonting om Polisförbundet. Det här var för några dagar sedan på Samnytt. Polisförbundet tar strid för uniformer i Pride. I december framkom att Polismyndigheten tagit fram ett nytt förslag till regelverk för bärande av uniform utanför arbetstid, där det skulle förbjudas i bland annat politiska kampanjer som Pride. Detta anser Polisförbundet är fel. Uniformerad polis har varit en vanlig syn i Pridefestivalerna under de senaste åren, men det är inte alla som håller med om lämpligheten i detta. Utöver att förbjuda uniform i privata sociala medier vill Polismyndigheten också hindra poliser från att bära arbetsklädsel i Pride-sammanhang. Inför det slutliga beslutet har förslaget gått ut på samråd och nyligen skickade Polisförbundet in sitt yttrande. Där välkomnar man skärpta regler förutom när det gäller just Pride. Enligt Polisförbundet bör poliser dessutom få delta i Pride på arbetstid, då det skulle vara ett sätt för polisen att stå upp för mänskliga rättigheter och marknadsföra sig som en modern arbetsgivare. För oss handlar det om att försvara demokratiska värden och allas rätt till trygghet. HBTQI-personer har historiskt blivit utsatta för kränkningar av polisen. Det är en grupp där många känner otrygghet när de ser poliser. Jag kan förstå att man tycker att Pride är politiskt laddat, men vi delar inte den uppfattningen. Polisförbundet ser inte Pride som en primärt politisk åsiktsyttring. Vi menar att det handlar om att visa HBTQI-gemenskapen att vi finns även för dem, säger Sofia Villander, förste vice ordförande för Polisförbundet, till Polistidningen. Då Polistidningen först rapporterar om förslaget fick man många positiva reaktioner från poliser, och Sofia Villander medger att åsikterna går isär. Samtidigt anser hon att det inte vore så svårt att avsätta några timmar arbetstid per år för tiden det innebär att gå i en parad. Trygghetsskapande är ett av myndighetens kärnuppdrag, och att synas i uniform på Pride innebär precis det. Ja, och så ska jag avsluta med en kort video om betydelsen av koldioxid för medicinalväxter. Att det gör dem mera potenta. Och efter det så önskar jag alla en god fortsättning på dagen.
Institute of Health des US-Bundesstaates Maryland hat neuere Studien veröffentlicht, die belegen, dass erhöhte CO2-Werte nicht nur das Wachstum von Pflanzen fördern, sondern auch deren Konzentration an medizinisch relevanten Inhaltsstoffen steigern können. Heilpflanzen, die seit Jahrtausenden in der Naturheilkunde verwendet werden, nehmen besonders gut an Wirkstoffen zu. Da der CO2-Gehalt in der Atmosphäre vor einigen tausend Jahren deutlich höher war als heute, ist es durchaus plausibel, dass die Heilkräuter damals eine noch stärkere Wirkung zeigten als heute. Unterm Strich scheint also die Zunahme des Kohlendioxidgehalts in der Atmosphäre mehr Nutzen als Schaden zu bringen. Daher stellt sich die Frage, wenn Klimahysteriker aus Politik und Systemmedien positive CO2-Effekte wie diesen verschweigen oder sogar bekämpfen, entlarvt das Sie und Ihre Strippenzieher der UN-Agenda 2030 nicht als krankmachend und menschenfeindlich?
Hej då! Vi hörs imorgon.